Good evening, and welcome again to the Canadian Orthodox Monastery of All Saints of North America. Now that we've managed to irritate enough people, we will continue with our discussion. With the next couple of discussions, we're going to be talking about the dogma of redemption, the concept of salvation, as Matthew Spann calls it. And right from the beginning, I want to recommend a few books from Synaxis Press. This is not a word from our sponsor, but in any case, or station break. But I do want to recommend some books that I think will help people understand the issues a little better. The first one is called The Living Theology of Orthodoxy, or Orthodox Christian Asceticism and Spiritual Struggle. And I think it's a very important book for understanding the Orthodox Christian concept of theology and of salvation itself. The other one is a very excellent refutation of sectarian and Western juridical justification theory. Juridical justification is more a philosophy than a theology, because ultimately we discover that it's not really based in Scripture at all. It's really based in something else. And this book by Dr. Anselm from Synaxis Press, you can find on the Synaxis Press website, synaxispress.com. Another one, which is one of the most important Orthodox Christian works of the 20th century, is The Moral Idea of the Main Dogmas of the Faith by St. Anthony Kropowicki, who died in 1936, I believe. And particularly the chapter on the dogma of redemption is extremely important. It traces a history of the Western heretical doctrine of substitutionary sacrifice and gives the actual Christian understanding of it. Justification, the Path to Theosis by the notable Lebanese theologian Dr. Michael Askool is also extremely important in relation to our discussion. All of these will be found on synaxispress.com, and we're going to discuss Spann's, well, let us say, the Western doctrine of redemption, or salvation. Now, in the beginning of the 1100s, a writer in Britain, Roman Catholic theologian, gave us a new and novel doctrine of salvation, one that it was unheard of in the church, had only been hinted at by the lawyer Tertullian, and after him by the great Western heresiarch Augustine of Hippo, the father of almost all Western heresies and erroneous philosophies. So we want to talk about this new doctrine, which was invented by a man named Anselm of Canterbury. Now, Anselm came along in an era of high scholasticism, when theology was all based on the rationalism of Aristotle and the dialectic of the Roman law court. He was dissatisfied with the traditional Christian doctrine of ransom and decided that it did not have enough legal ramifications. So he created a new doctrine, and this doctrine, he based it literally on the medieval law of dueling. Now, in the medieval law of the duel, if I'm a nobleman and you're a nobleman, and one of my servants or serfs offends you, your honor cannot be restored, you cannot obtain justice by dueling my servant, because my servant's blood is inferior to yours. So you have to duel me, because it was my servant who offended you. Because my blood is equal to yours, consequently only blood equal to yours can atone for the offense and restore your honor, and therefore satisfy the needs of your justice. Now, he extrapolated from this to suggest that man fell from a state of absolute perfection into a state of dire wickedness, complete depravity. Now, all the suffering of mankind through all the centuries and all the ages could not assuage God's offended honor and satisfy some kind of cosmic law of justice over which God himself has no power and to which he himself must subject himself. He must demand this cosmic justice of some kind. And consequently, since man was so inferior to God, and God is so other, eternal, then the sin of mankind is also eternal and without bounds. We're not explained why, because man himself is not eternal and without bounds. So we don't know how he could sin in that manner. But anyway, this is the idea that he came up with. The only person whose blood was equal to his, never mind the fact that God is spirit and has no blood, but anyway, in order to have blood, he had to be incarnate, you see. Now, the only person who could atone and satisfy this cosmic law of justice, this hyper-divine cosmic law of justice, and satisfy God's pique and peevishness, would be his own son, following the law of the duel. So Christ was incarnate precisely for the purpose of constituting a fit sacrifice that would satisfy the sinful wrath and vindictiveness of a sinfully angry God. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what the teaching is. God is filled with passions and sin. He has unforgivingness, he has vindictiveness, he has viciousness, he has vengefulness. He has to demand some kind of atonement because his honor is offended. Prideful arrogance, of course, and self-centered egotism, I dare say. This is the Western vision of God. And this is what is responsible for modern atheism. Well did Photius Contagnu tell us, modern atheism is not the rejection of God, but disgust of the Western God, rejection of the Western God, who cannot possibly be loved by anybody. And so we'll proceed from here because we've run out of our 10 minutes, and we'll go on in a few minutes with another broadcast.